feels so weird. The Jurgen Klopp era is finally over, officially over. It sounds so weird. When whenever you read it, whenever you hear it, former Liverpool boss Jurgen Klopp, it just doesn't register. But the Arne Slot era will officially begin, and he'll be joining us as the head coach. So much has happened over the last month. Players like Thiago, Joel Matip, probably one of our best free signings ever. So many people leaving, so much change. How are we feeling as a fan base?
Yeah, it's a good question, mate, because I think there's a lot of emotions running through most of us at the moment. Like you said before, it's there's an unusual feeling of stepping into the unknown, and it's going to be strange when we look on the sidelines next season and it's not Jurgen Klopp stood there, but someone else, and that would have been the case for whoever it was really. And when he said you after rather than we after the last game of the season when he was doing his speech, it was kind of like, oh yeah, like you said, he's the former manager now. He's not the current manager, and obviously he continued to say his goodbyes this week at the event at the arena, and but that does feel like that's definitely it now, and a new dawn starts with a new manager. So to answer your question on how we're all feeling, I think it is a real range of emotions. I think there's a lot of gratitude for everything that we did. I think there's an element of sadness that it's not going to carry on. I think there's bound to be some kind of trepidation or concerns, because anytime you step into the unknown or anytime that there's change, there's always a little bit of that, and I think it's only human nature to be a little bit nervous when you're going into any new period of your life, or your support, or anything that is important to you. But I think there is some excitement as well. I think there is this idea of, okay, well, it is a new start, a new manager. Um, what kind of football will he play? What changes will he make? What will he see within the squad and think, well, I could do something slightly different? There'll always be new players who come in any summer, pretty much regardless, really. So, who are they going to be, and how are they going to help? And so I think it's going to be an interesting summer. He hasn't started yet, like you said, and so I think he's going to want to have a look at everyone, but I'm sure he'll have some recommendations on areas that we could sort of strengthen. Obviously, Liverpool have strengthened themselves off the pitch with the return of Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes, and a couple of others as well. And I think they're going to want to not necessarily put the stamp on the club, but certainly look to start working straight away. And so I think it's going to get to the point where once they have started, then that first training game and the first pre-season game is going to be a really interesting one. And I think a lot more people than normal are going to watch it, because you're going to want to see, what he does, what the new manager brings, and any little subtle changes, like I say, to the playing style, or even to player positions. So all of those emotions and more, I think we're feeling at the moment.
Yeah. So before we move on to Arne Slot, I really want to ask you, as a football broadcaster, as a fellow Red, how do you see Klopp's legacy, not just at Liverpool, but in English football? How do you rate his legacy? How do you see his legacy? I mean, when he first arrived, he had a starting lineup of that consisted of Fabio Borini, Mario Balotelli, and I think Ricky Lambert and Joe Allen in the midfield. Uh, you know, uh, so considering what he inherited and what he's leaving now to uh, Arne Slot, how do you rate his legacy? Not just on Liverpool, but on English football as well.
Yeah, I think you're right to say it goes beyond just our club, because if you look at it purely from a Liverpool point of view, I think he's changed the club on and off the pitch, and I include the supporter base within that. I think on the pitch he obviously brought success and glory, and a fantastic football team, and there's many people you know, many Liverpool fans older than I am, who said that that team from 2018 to 2020 was the best Liverpool team they've ever seen. And, you know, you think about the great sides of the 70s and 80s, that's really something. Um, but they were just absolutely phenomenal. They were great to watch, but also a winning machine as well. And so I think his prime legacy is that fantastic team that they built and that they became English champions, European champions, and world champions. But he's also changed the club in a way that not many football managers do. And you know, you talk about Bill Shankly and what he did, and Shankly's legacy always goes beyond trophies. And the reason Shankly's got a statue outside the Kop, and the reason that Liverpool fans still speak of it about him, you know, if I were to ask you or any Liverpool fan, or what does Bill Shankly mean to you, you would talk a lot about lots of other things, maybe even before the fact that you talk about, you know, he won Liverpool's first FA Cup in 1965 and won Liverpool's first European trophy. And I think you probably would talk quite early by the fact that he took Liverpool from the second division to champions, but it wouldn't just be the trophies that you talk about, or of which there were plenty, because it's much more than that. And I think it'll be similar for Klopp when we talk about him, you know, in 40, 50 years time, which we will, which the club will, because it's a club that recognises its heroes and its legends. So I think it is much more. But you're right to say about English football as well. I think he's changed English football by his personality and by his playing style. And I think the rivalry between him and Pep Guardiola, I think, will go down in history in English football as well, because they both pushed each other to greater heights. And I think both manager would say that, is that they felt like they had to be a better manager and they had to build a better team because of the other. And you know, the idea of 85 to 90 points to win a league title went out the window, and it suddenly became sort of 95 to 100. And sometimes, as we agonizingly know, that wasn't enough. But I think, you know, Guardiola, I think, you know, had to be better, and Man City had to be better. And also, I think they changed their style to you know, to not copy Jurgen, but to mimic certain things of what he was doing in terms of the press and being, you know, horrible to play against as well as incredible on the ball. And so I think, you know, from a playing style, I think he's had a huge impact on the league. I think he's also someone who has spoken a lot about player welfare and about what is fair for asking players to do. And I think some of those changes that we're seeing to the game, and hopefully we'll continue to see, to not just protect footballers but give us all a better game to watch, I think will continue to sort of live on as well. And so he's been huge. He's been huge for the country. He's been massive for the city as well. I know a lot of people who aren't really into football, or aren't Liverpool supporters, or you know, just have a passive interest, but not kind of as crazy as we are. You know, we'll talk about how big he was for the city, and how the city has felt a more vibrant, exciting place because he is here, and because, and also when we win these trophies, the images of Liverpool looking resplendent in red go around the world, and that's huge as well. So he's probably been our best marketing tool as a city as well. And so I'm sure the politicians and the people, you know, in charge of running the place will miss him as well. So his legacy is massive, like you say, mate. It transcends football. It transcends Liverpool Football Club, and yeah, we'll all be very grateful, especially here, to those of us who live here, for everything that he's done.
We've seen managers who follow the footsteps of club legends, you know, like David Moyes and Unai Emery as the most recent examples. But then again, you've also got Graham Souness at Liverpool. Uh, you know, it's obviously never easy to fill a void or fill in the footsteps of these iconic figures, right? And Jurgen Klopp is certainly, I believe, in my opinion, he's more than just a legend. He's an icon. He's turned the club upside down. How do you rate Arne Slot's appointment? He's Remember, he's not the manager. He's being appointed as the head coach, but he's got a very solid structure behind. We've seen what Michael Edwards can do, and he can weave some miracles, right? But so how do you rate his appointment? How do you think he'll do?
Yeah, it's I mean, we're gonna have to wait and see, basically, but I think it is slightly different to with Ferguson and Wenger for the reasons that you know so eloquently described. There is that the structure around the manager, I think, is a lot stronger, and so Ferguson, was an incredible manager for Manchester United and everything that he won, but the club was so much in his identity, and also, he was so sort of focused on winning that I don't think that he was necessarily thinking about what was coming next after him, in terms of the squad that he finished up with, and also the football club. I think we're just happy to kind of keep winning under him, and then so when he went, he left a hole that was bigger than a manager, I think, and also left a squad that wasn't necessarily geared up to giving the next manager, whoever that might be, the best opportunity. Wenger was similar in that I don't think, um, I think he left a better squad behind, arguably, but certainly a younger squad. But in terms of, he did everything at Arsenal. He was the manager plus, and you talk about interesting going from manager to head coaches. The likes of Wenger and Ferguson were doing work far beyond what even a manager would have so expected. They would do.
It
They were
was
so
scouting.
involved in everything. Exactly. And so, contract negotiations and sort of all sorts. And so what I think we've been quite fortunate in that, Jurgen Klopp apparently informed the owners in October, I think it was. Obviously, we didn't find out till December, I think, but obviously informed the club in October. And I think since then they've been planning on putting everything in place to make sure that whoever the new manager is has the best opportunity to succeed. And that you're not trying to replace one huge personality and one incredible leader like Jurgen with another, because there is no replacement, there is no other person, and obviously there's only ever one Jurgen Klopp, but still, within world football, that I think managers of that stature are generally few and far between, but getting even rarer. And so I think they've done a really good job of putting a solid structure in place. I mean, they'll be delighted to get Michael Edwards back, of course, but there's other appointments as well that I'm sure that they're really happy with. To me, in that the new guy who's coming in, and it's not just a different title, I think it is, less expectation of what you need to come in and do everything. Your job is to get the best out of a talented group of players, and it is to play the style that you want, but also the style that fits into how Liverpool, as fans we want, and the players that we have. And that's not to say that he's guaranteed to succeed, because it's still a tough job. Don't get me wrong. It's managing a group of footballers to get a very high potential points total to win anything. And so it's, no one's saying it's going to be easy, but I think it will be an easier job than what Emery had and Moyes had, regardless of the talent of the person that comes in. And I think that who they've gone for, I think, is exciting. And I think, we'd love someone coming in with, a greater track record, maybe, or I think if Alonso was coming in, someone who just won a Bundesliga, I think there'd be, that would feel maybe a little bit better. But I think when you look around at what other clubs are doing at the moment, listen, if we were being linked with the Leicester City or the Ipswich manager, I think Liverpool fans would be going mad, and I'd be questioning the owners and things like that. And that's not to say that they're bad managers who won't succeed, because we'll have to wait and see. But if it looks like the manager who Chelsea are going for has only managed for 1 year, and that's in the Championship. And so when and then that's when you get into Europe, and obviously, I
Another one of Pep's assistants, coaches, yet
yeah,
another
yeah,
one.
and Bayern Munich going for Vincent Company, who I don't think Liverpool fans would have, kind of been too happy with either. And so it feels like they've got into a good place again, is what I'm saying. And listen, we're both Liverpool fans. We know Liverpool fans, and we'll get behind him, and we'll support him, and we'll give him every chance in terms of our backing as well.
So I've spoken to fans as well, and some football analysts as well. They all rate Arne Slot very highly in the Netherlands, in the Eredivisie, and they say his intensity is very much. It's very similar like Jurgen Klopp's, but he's more of a possession-based manager. He's called a control freak, right? And so I'm excited as a just as a not just even as a Liverpool fan, but as a football fan, I'm excited for a new change in tactics in our formation. How will we line up? The most that I'm excited about are our players who can explode, improve, or have a new position on the slot. Players like Trent in the midfield, the eternal question, obviously. McAllister, will he be used as a six, deep line playmaker, or as a double pivot, or will he be utilized further forward, which I think he is best there. And what about like Darwin Nunes? Will Luis Diaz stay? So what do you think? And do you have any insights on his tactical play, his tactics, his formations? How will he line up? What do you think about Trent, McAllister, Nunes, Diaz under him?
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because we just don't know, and that's part of the excitement, like you say, but it's part of the intrigue and part of why I said before. I think that more of us than ever are going to be watching these preseason games because you're going to be looking for clues on how he plays and what he wants players to do. Obviously, from what we've learned, and I'm sure from when you've spoken to Feyenoord fans too, he's got a favoured formation, which is 4-2-3-1, but that was also Klopp's favoured formation at Dortmund, and he moved away from that reasonably quickly. He did play at the start of Liverpool, but then sort of changed based on the players that he had and how he felt Liverpool should play. And so I don't think it's quite as wedded as maybe people think that he's definitely going to play 4-2-3-1, but if he does, who fits in where is going to be really interesting. And we can all have our own opinions, but really the one that matters will be Arne Slot and how he sort of sees. And I think my hope is that he is able to kick on a few of the players who came in last summer who showed glimpses of talent, but we're hoping for some more of, and not just last summer, but the summer before as well. So I'm not prepared to give up on Darwin Nunes quite yet because I think he's a fantastic talent. He's still young for a striker at 24, and I think when you look around at strikers that are available, that there's not a ton who you think, oh, we'll sell him and get him in, both in terms of maybe talent or injury record, and so I'm hoping that Arne Slot can get a bit more out of him in terms of consistency and obviously as he matures as a footballer anyway. And similar with someone like Szoboszlai, who started the season fantastically and then trailed off a little bit. But if the manager is looking to play maybe more of a 4-2-3-1, then in a committed attacking midfield role, what is he able to show there and what can he offer? I think could be really exciting potentially to see. And like you say, the $1 million question is Trent and what he looks to do with Trent and how much of a say Trent has in that and what he thinks is going to be interesting. So these are all things that are going to be looking at in the summer and fans are going to be looking at this summer and we all have our opinions certainly on Trent and on where he should be sort of playing. I'd personally like to see him moved into a more advanced role, but the manager might have other ideas, and so we'll have to see. But yeah, that first pre-season game I'm going to be watching keenly, like I think quite a few of us, and to see little clues on how he wants to play, but also how he sees specific players within the squad moving forward.
The one among many of the things, many of the great things that Jurgen leaves behind is this collection of gems from the academy, from the Liverpool Academy, players like Kwanzaa. I don't feel uncomfortable when Kwanzaa is partnering with Van Dijk. I don't feel uncomfortable. I'm very relaxed, and that's saying something as a Liverpool fan. With Kwanzaa, you've got Conor Bradley. He stepped up when Trent was out, and during the season, Trent was out. There were like actually questions about when he scored and assisted against Chelsea in the league game. I mean, Conor Bradley, Kwanzaa. Let's not forget Jaden Dance. That guy. Arne Slot has been known to improve players. Harvey Elliott. How am I leaving Harvey Elliott out? His
Yeah.
position is going to be, up for grabs for easy play. He's not a winger. We know that. He is a attacking midfielder. But yeah, all these hidden gems Jurgen Klopp is leaving behind for Arne Slot. How, who do you think might explode under him? Because Arne Slot has been renowned for improving players, even changing their positions.
Yeah, and you're right in terms of talking about these young players, because I was mentioning the likes of szoboszlai and Darwin Núñez, who are still fairly young players in terms of a professional footballer. The best years are ahead of them, but the guys even younger than that are really exciting, like you say. And this goes back to what I was saying before about the squad that Klopp leaves, and the gifts, and you like if he's given the sort of the next manager, because in a way it's a difficult job because you're following Jurgen Klopp, but in another way he's made it as kind as possible for the next guy by having this really exciting young squad, and obviously there are older players as well, but there's so much talent. And I think for those young players that you mentioned there, the belief he's given them in themselves, and the belief that the they have to be first team footballers, I think was another thing that made him such a special manager. And they'll hopefully retain that. They should keep that, because they've done it. They've proven themselves, and they've proven to themselves that they can compete and deliver at the very highest level. And so I think that's why it is a funny job, because in a way it's a tough one because you're following such a legend, but in another way you've got all these not just fantastic first team players, but young players who are hungry, who are talented, and who have had a bit of a taste of the first team action, and will be keen for more. And so I think on the balance, I think it is a great job for any manager, and I'm not surprised that Slot's sort of looking forward to it and relishing it, because it's funny, you're like, oh, Harvey Elliott, I forgot all about it. Do you know what I mean? That's what it's like when you assess the Liverpool squad. You can focus on where it's short, or focus on certain players that you'd like to sort of bring in, but there is so many brilliant players who are here, and so many of them feel like the best years are ahead of them. And so that is exciting for the manager, and there'll probably be a few that surprise him, even, because I'm sure he's watched Liverpool games, but there's always one player or a couple of players who you think, oh, this guy, I feel like, I didn't know about him, but he could be a first team player for me, and we'll see who those are too.
Listen, thank you so much for joining us on
Pleasure.
joining me on this podcast. Really, it's enlightening speaking to you, John. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.